Hey folks, it's Rob and welcome back. We're continuing our series today on the Monstrous Compendium Appendix for the Mystara setting from 1994's TSR. We're in part 41 today, which means we're on page 109. Yes. And what do we have? Well, we have some form of lizard, it seems, but seems also to be wearing a grassy jacket. Well, it's got a tufty tail, so let's assume it's hairy, right? This is the Surtaki, and we got our usual commentary about how things are a bit paler. You lose some of the definition and detail here at the top of the wizard's head because it's definitely more faded than what I have in my hand. Like this is definitely a fairly black paw, and it's very you can see it's grayish, dapply, but you know overall, you get the impression, it's lizardy. It's got its forked tongue in the air. It's got scales. It's got a lizard head. Let's see what it has to say about it. So, climate/terrain, open hills and badlands. Frequency very rare. They are solitary in organization. Activity cycle any. Diet carnivore. Intelligence semi 2 to 4. So smarter than just basic animal, right? But not smart on the human scale, really. Treasure, nil. Alignment, chaotic evil. Okay, so, they're motivated in certain ways. Number appearing, 1d3. Armor class 6. Movement 12. Hit dice 6. To hit AC 0 is 15. It gets 3 attacks. The damage per attack is a d10 hoof, another d10 hoof, which, I guess it's a hoof. Looks more clawy, but okay. And D6 bite. Special attack is charge. Special defenses are quills and disease. Magic resistance nil, size large, 5 foot at the shoulder. So we're describing it as like a horse. So, its length will be longer than that. But now I'm like, hey, didn't we do giant lizards like a few months back? Yes, we did do giant lizards. Sorry, folks. Guess this is just a special giant lizard. Morale Elite 13 and XP value of 650. The origin of these ravenous beasts is unknown. As usual, the mad wizard's experiment is suspected, although they may be the spawn of some twisted, inimical power. In any case, they are nightmarish creatures the size of a large bull, with a giant serpent's head, tortoise feet, and thick green fur, and a horse's tail. Interesting. Combat. A Surtaki's shaggy fur conceals dozens of barbed quills, similar to those of a giant porcupine. Any creature that strikes a Surtaki in melee combat must make a successful saving throw versus wand to avoid the quills. If the save fails, the attacker suffers 1d6 points of damage and must make a second saving throw, this time against poison. If that saving throw fails, the attacker contracts a rotting disease that causes 1 point of damage each round thereafter. The disease also prevents normal and magical healing and regeneration. A cure disease spell halts its effects. Characters who die from this disease can be recovered only by a wish or resurrection, which is some really potent mojo. Not just raise dead, but gotta go all the way up the scale to wish or resurrection. When hunting, Surtakis usually lie in wait for their prey, hiding behind the crest of a hill or in dense undergrowth and charging at anything that comes within 100 yards, as long as it isn't bigger than that. I think that's supposed to be then, but it says that, which I just tripped over. Isn't bigger than the Surtaki itself, so I think that's meant to be then. This charge attack gives the Surtaki the standard penalties and bonuses as explained in the player's handbook, a +2 bonus to attack roll, and a +1 penalty to armor class. Opponents being charged receive a -2 bonus to initiative and can inflict double damage with weapons set for a charge. Now, fighters have the ability to set for charge, but in second edition, there's just like this warrior segment, which covers like fighters and paladins and rangers. Oh my. And if you, certain weapons will give you, after specializing in them, to give you the ability to set for charge, I believe, if I recall correctly. It's been more than a moment. I currently play in basic BECME Dungeons and Dragons in a regular game. And I also run one. And I had to set my spear against charge as a halfling, which was one of the halfling's abilities, against a gorgon, which did do... I was given the option by the DM to either roll 2 dice for damage or double the single die, and I went with the rules as written and doubled the single die. But, yeah. No, you don't underestimate that ability sometimes. That is still handy. We managed to defeat that gorgon without suffering any casualties, which we really, really could have had a total party wipe right there. All 4 of us could have been caught in the petrification gas and just been gone. But that didn't happen. Surtaki spend about 2/3 of their time snoozing to conserve energy, so they're also part cat, apparently. They never really fall into deep sleep, however, and their keen senses of hearing and smell usually alert them when prey or danger is at hand. Habitat/society. Surtakis are territorial hunters that inhabit mountain foothills, badlands, and other rough but fairly open country. Most adults tolerate each other only at mating time. Juveniles, however, tend to stick together for a year or 2 until they can carve out territories for themselves. If 2 Surtakis are encountered together, they will be mated pair, 50% chance, or a pair of clutch mates, 50% chance. Groups of 3 Surtakis are always clutch mates, usually 75% the same sex, and always the same age, while they would be clutch mates. Ecology. Surtaki are always hungry and will eat anything they can catch. They eat only meat, but will scavenge it if the opportunity presents itself. Most Surtaki live 35 to 40 years, attain their full growth in about 5 years, and mature sexually in about 10 years. A female Surtaki mates every 2 years. After a year, she scrapes out a shallow nest on a sunny hillside and lays a clutch of 2d12 eggs, which hatch in 4d4 plus 4 weeks. There's a lot of detail for the ecology here that I don't know if you're going to need, but why not? The mother keeps watch over the nest during this time and fearlessly attacks, morale 20, anything that comes near. So there's a bit of more hook, right? Curiously enough, she takes no interest in the hatchlings when they appear and may eat them herself if she is hungry, and they are always hungry. Typically, only 1d6 hatchlings survive the first 6 weeks, and only 1d3 survive the first year. Freshly laid Surtaki eggs are considered a great delicacy in some parts of Mystara, and sell for 2d4 gold pieces each. Geez, that's not much return on those. You have to, well, I guess if you can manage to steal the eggs while the mom's not around for some reason, possibly off eating something, I guess then it's not such a big deal, but you got to go out into the countryside where the big horse-sized lizard that will kill you if it injures you. I don't know. Maybe consider these values for yourself. I don't know. Sell for 2d4 gold pieces each. Tastes, however, vary widely, and many Mystarans find the eggs, fresh or otherwise, disgusting in the extreme. Surtaki hatchlings also have some value, 1d4 times 10 gold pieces each, but they are hard to handle as their spines harden and become dangerous within 30 minutes of hatching. Hatchlings would fetch higher prices were they not virtually untrainable. What are you paying for that? What do you want that for? They are sometimes used as guard beasts. Their bizarre appearance can make a big impression, fair enough, but they are untrustworthy and usually are useful only if they can be released into an unused area where they are free to attack anything it enters, or if they can be charmed so that they will obey commands. So there's a little more hook material for you, I suppose. And how you can use these outside of just like inside the Badlands, right? They could be released into a ruin behind the castle that no one wants to have to guard, right? Or into the dungeon it goes. Classic Minotaur kind of thing. Let's move to the next page. 110. Yes. Tabi. Yeah, the Tabi. Climate/terrain. Ruins, subterranean, urban. Frequency very rare. Their organization is solitary again. Activity cycle any. Their diet is carnivore. Their intelligence is average at 8 to 10. Typical person. Treasure nil, despite it being pictured holding some treasure. Take that as you will. Alignment chaotic neutral. Number appearing 1d4, armor class 6, again, movement 6 on the ground, but flying, speed 24, but a maneuverability of C. So, not the most agile, but not the most lumbering either. Hit dice 5, to hit AC 0, 15. Number of attacks 2. Damage per attack is d4 for each claw. Special attacks are poison. Special defenses, nil. Magic resistance, nil. Size, tiny. It's a 3-foot wingspan. So imagine a smallish monkey, right? With, like, bat wings. Because that's really what we're picturing here. Except it's bald. And got, like, claw feet. But, morale steady at 11. And XP value 650. Tabi are small, winged creatures about the size of house cats. They are inveterate gossips, scavengers, and thieves. A tabby's body is compact and ape-like, covered with long golden fur. Their wings are leathery and thin. Adults weigh about 15 pounds. A living tabby emits an odor that smells like rotting meat, noticeable in still air at ranges of about up to 100 feet. Tabi are intelligent and clever. They speak common and their own tongue. Work out for yourself what their tongue sounds like, I suppose. They're monkeys. You can work it out, probably. Combat. A tabby attacks with its claws, which drip a crystal blue venom. A victim of a claw attack must make a successful saving throw versus poison or become deluded for 2d6 turns. Deluded victims attack the creature nearest to them immediately. They can use a weapon if they were holding one and when they were poisoned, but otherwise they attack with their bare hands. Deluded victims cannot cast spells or use spell-like abilities or psionics. A neutralized poison spell ends the delusion. Tabi can pick pockets, hide in shadows, and move silently with a 40% chance of success. Again, thief abilities can be rough. This actually tracks well with the Beckme series because, meanwhile, in 2nd edition, you could actually build a fairly reasonable scaling thief able to do something, right? Other than just simply climbing walls. But that's a huge diversion we don't need to get into. They prefer to attack from ambush, but are careful to hide downwind from prey so their stench doesn't give them away. Well, I mean, they'd have to. 100 feet while in still air. You can imagine how badly they reek. Habitat/society. Tabi can live almost anywhere, but like rats, they prefer places where there is food to steal or scavenge. Tabi have an insatiable hunger for information of any sort and usually have a large repertoire of local rumors and legends. Tabbies gladly trade this information for high-quality food or other information, but they are not known to be particularly truthful. Tabi constantly gossip amongst themselves, and anything one Tabi knows quickly spreads to all the other Tabi in the area. Certain high-level wizards know a spell that binds a single Tabi into their service. Such Tabi generally serve as informants and spies. Ecology. A Tabi can live up to 150 years, although most of them live less than half that long in the wild. Tabi become fully mature by the age 6. A female Tabi bears a single infant about 7 months after mating. Tabi infants are dependent on their mothers for about 18 months, though they can learn to fly by the time they are 3 months old. Here we have a description of the Bind Tabi spell, which is an enchantment, charm, conjuration, summoning school. So in 2nd edition, you can select schools of specialization as part of your build of your magic user, wizard or sorcerer. And so the schools are important for that. Range, touch, components, verbal, somatic, and material. That's what the VSM means. Duration, special. Casting time takes a week. Area of effect, the Tabi you touched. Saving throw, none, which would be the Tabi's saving throw. It doesn't get one. This spell allows the caster to bind one Tabi into service for life. The Tabi becomes absolutely loyal and will carry out all the caster's commands to the best of its ability, even if the command puts the Tabi in danger, morale 20. This spell does not work on Tabi already bound to another wizard, and the caster can have only one bound Tabi at a time. To cast the spell, the wizard must have an iron brazier filled with red-hot coals and at least 2,000 gold pieces worth of rare incense. The final incantation takes less than a round, but the caster must immediately touch the Tabi or the spell fails. Unless the Tabi is caged or tightly bound, a successful attack roll is required to touch the Tabi. Once the spell is cast and the Tabi is touched, the caster must keep the Tabi nearby, always within 100 yards, for a full week. During this time, the caster instructs the Tabi about its duties, and the pair generally get acquainted with each other. During this time, the caster can follow a normal routine or even go adventuring, but he or she is too preoccupied to undertake intensive tasks, such as spell research or enchanting a magic item. Once bound, a Tabi willingly shares any information it has with its new master. The caster can release the Tabi from its bond with no ill effects. The Bind Tabi spell can be cast only once a year. So this is a 6th level magic user spell, so I mean that's quite getting there. But, permanent, bound, smelly, evil minion that can fly. You got your own permanent flying monkey, right? What more can I say? Some people would be like, my own permanent flying monkey? Sign me up. Certainly a good tool for the DM. And let's do one more. Lastly, a Dungeons & Dragons classic found actually in the, box sets themselves. Interesting color design, but I mean, it does kind of fit knowing what I know about Thouls. And I say Thouls. I don't think we have a pronunciation guide on this, but again, this is still 2nd edition, so Thouls will not be, frankly, somewhat patheticized by the fact that they lose their special undead powers, right? Let's get into it. But it's page 111. I just want to get that out of the way. Sorry. Climate/terrain. Any non-Arctic. Frequency, very rare. Organization, solitary or tribal. Activity cycle, any. Diet, omnivore. Intelligence, low, 5 to 7. Treasure type C. Their alignment is lawful evil. Number appearing 1d6. Armor class 6. Movement 12. Hit dice 3. To hit AC 0, 17. Number of attacks 2 or 1. Damage per attack is a D3 claw and a D3 claw or by weapon. So if it's unarmed, it'll just use its claws. It gets 2 attacks. If it's using a weapon, it gets, the weapon. So special attacks paralyzation, which is special defenses regeneration. So, I mean, so far you've been hearing not anything all that scary, right? And now you're like, uh-oh. Magic resistance nil, size medium, 6.5 feet tall, a little taller than a regular guy. Champion, morale at 15, XP value 270. And then, hey, if it's a spellcaster, we get more XP. So, spellcaster first level, 420. Second level, 650. Third level, 975. And at fourth level, 1,400. Thouls are magical crosses between ghouls, hobgoblins, and trolls. And hence the green flesh and the troll-like face, right? I think it's just wearing pants. So that pale area is pants. Yeah. Honestly, the picture came over kind of okay. So I don't have a lot to argue about that. Interesting to see it with a bow and a sword and a quiver of arrows. And dreadlocks was an interesting choice. Apparently, it has some form of shackles. Anyhow, so in spite of their ghoulish blood, they are living creatures, not undead, specified here. So this, I think, is different from the Thoul I'm used to, where they are undead. They eat flesh, and they are undead. Their ghoulish nature is what animates them. But let's continue. Most Thouls look just like hobgoblins, about 6.5 feet tall, dark-skinned, and untidy. Some, however, show clear signs of their troll ancestry. Such Thouls can have any of the following characteristics: relatively hairless skin with a greenish cast instead of the dark red or reddish-orange skin of hobgoblins, slate gray or dull black hair, ropey in texture, long and tube-like noses like a troll's, very different from a hobgoblin's rather canine muzzle. Like hobgoblins, Thouls have yellow teeth. Their eyes, yellow like some hobgoblins or pure white, lack any pupil. This and their somewhat vacant look are traits that point to their troll and ghoul ancestry. Again, like hobgoblins, Thouls favor brightly colored clothing, usually blood-red cloth and gleaming black leather. Their weapons are always well cared for and brilliantly polished. Thouls have no tongue of their own, speaking hobgoblin instead. Roughly 60% also speak the languages of orcs, goblins, and carnivorous apes. Thouls live amongst hobgoblins, can speak common, if the hobgoblin hosts do. Independent Thouls speak 20%, speak common 20% of the time. Combat. Like hobgoblins, Thouls have infravision with a range of 60 feet and fight equally well in bright light or darkness. Thouls living with hobgoblins share their host's hatred of elves. Thouls can paralyze victims just as ghouls can. A target hit by a Thoul's claw must make a successful saving throw versus paralyzation, or be paralyzed for 1d6 plus 2 rounds. Thouls often disdain the use of melee weapons unless they are facing elves who are immune to the paralyzation effect, which is something I was going to bring up, but it's right there. Armed Thouls usually carry some kind of sword and a longbow. When injured, a Thoul can regenerate 1 lost hit point a melee round as long as it remains alive. Habitat/society. Thouls have a brutal, militaristic outlook, just as hobgoblins do. Independent Thouls live in small family groups in caves or ruins. Lone Thoul encounters are with hunters and scouts whose business has taken them away from the main group. A Thoul lair contains 2 young for each adult. Immature Thouls inflict no damage other than paralysis. Victims receive a +2 bonus on saving throws. Thouls often serve as bodyguards to hobgoblin kings and chieftains. About 25% of subterranean hobgoblin lairs have 2d6 Thoul guards. Only 5% of hobgoblin surface villages have Thouls. Any Thoul living amongst hobgoblins is hated and feared for its superior abilities and status, and a Thoul living in a hobgoblin tribe without the sponsorship of a powerful hobgoblin leader is treated as a wretched outcast. Frequently, such Thouls survive the abuse they suffer only by virtue of their regeneration ability. Thoul spellcasters are rare, but slightly more frequent among Thouls living with hobgoblins. Thouls can become shamans of up to 5th level, with access to necromancy, healing, and charm spears. Thouls can also become 4th level witch doctors with spells from the illusion phantasm, enchantment charm, and necromancy schools. So shamans are like basically monster clerics, and you've worked it out, right? Witch doctors are functionally monster magic users, right? And again, this gets into how 2nd edition has like schools of spellcasting, right? Ecology. Thouls are a viable race, but have one of the lowest birth rate amongst humanoids. Opportunistic hobgoblins and occasionally orcs frequently raid independent Thoul communities to get young Thouls to train as royal bodyguards, assistant shamans, or witch doctors. Thouls live about 50 years. Thoul guards in hobgoblin lairs live a little longer due to the better food and living conditions. Until they don't when the party comes through. So be it. Yeah, if you're wondering, the other way to say this is Thoul, because, thou with an L. I don't, because Thoul is more distinctive, but you do you. Anyhow, that's going to be it for today. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you have a great day. Stay well, and goodbye.